Welcome back to my series on Bible history. Last time we talked about Abram in the land of promise, and we found out about who's a Canaanite and who's not a Canaanite. Today we're going to talk about Egypt. Egypt is endlessly fascinating, and it has enough history so that you could really spend a lot of time talking about it. I just want to catch some highlights to help us understand what Egypt is, what it was like, so we can move forward with the biblical narrative with a pretty good web of understanding. So first of all, the two big things you have to know about Egypt are the Sahara Desert and the Nile. The Sahara Desert is the grandfather of all get lost and died and get turned into a skeleton deserts. It effectively cuts off all of the world south of the Sahara in Africa and everything north of it, which is northern Africa and then Europe and Asia. Then there's the Nile, which is a highway through the Sahara Desert. You can follow it. The one thing that keeps you from going through the Sahara is a lack of water. And the Nile is made up of water, believe it or not. And it has many other attributes as well. Not only is it a highway which the Egyptians are going to exclusively control, it's going to allow them to trade with the people of sub-Saharan Africa, primarily the guys called the Nubians who live down there. And they're going to influence each other's cultures. And as a result, not only are they going to be able to sell things that you generally only find in Europe and Asia and North Africa to the Nubians, but they're also going to get goods from the Nubians, and those are going to be super important, especially their monopoly on gold. And gold is a really big deal. And the Egyptians are going to have more of it than everyone else because they have the exclusive trade with sub-Saharan Africa. But they are also going to be able to get exotic animals and ivory, which is also going to be kind of a big deal as well. And so this is going to be a huge advantage for the Egyptians. And because they live along the river valley, their numbers are going to be great. And so they're going to be able to bargain with the Nubians, as well as the other people living around them in Western Asia, from a position of great strength, because they have a really large population because of that Nile river valley. And the Nile, also, getting down to the agriculture, is the best river ever because it floods at precisely the right time every year to cover the fields in silt that cause the growth to be extra good. And then it retreats, you plant your stuff, and by the time you're done harvesting, before you get your next flood. It was like it was designed by a loving creator as a gift to the people of Egypt. But instead of honoring God or giving him thanks, they became vain in their imaginations, their foolish hearts were darkened, and they began to worship animals and beasts and four-footed creatures and creeping things, as Paul points out. And so unfortunately, they're going to give all the credit for all the good that God gives them in the Nile. They're going to give it to idols and fake gods. More on that later. Also, the Nile is full of food on its own. The fish, I'm not talking about fish, I'm talking about huge fish that you can get out of there, and crocodiles. And man, were they able to take advantage of that? They were able to use it for trade. It was just this huge boon to the people of Egypt, the Nile was. We want to talk a little bit about, well, what do you think about when you think about Egyptian history? Pyramids. Where did they even come from? What even came up with this idea of pyramids? Well, their pyramids are a little different. The Mesopotamian pyramids are generally places of worship. And the Egyptian pyramids are kind of places of worship too, but they're also tombs. Here's how the story goes. The people of Egypt, there's one side of the Nile where you can grow crops and stuff, and the other side of the Nile, maybe not so much. It's dry, the soil is not good, and so they like to bury their dead over on that side. They consider that the dead side of the Nile. But they have a problem. The problem is that jackals will come and dig up their dearly beloved and eat them. Believe it or not, the Egyptians really don't like spending eternity in the digestive system of a jackal. And so what do they do to combat this? They take large sun-dried bricks and they place them on top of their tombs so the jackals can't get to them. And what a regular Egyptian gets, a pharaoh will get much, much more fancy and important. So they're going to have much bigger series of dried bricks, and these are going to be called mustabas. Our first pyramid is going to be for a guy named Djoser. Djoser is going to get the step pyramid. And a lot of this work is going to be done and credit given to Imhotep, his vizier. Imhotep is going to come up with the bright idea of, instead of using sun-dried brick, he's going to use stone. And instead of just having one layer, he's going to have slightly smaller layers of stone on top of the bottom one. So it's going to be 4 additional layers of stone, each one smaller than the other, making a sort of stepped pyramid. And of course, Imhotep is going to be rightly famous for this. Later, a pharaoh named Sneferu is going to decide that he wants to make one like that, only cased in stone. His first attempt is not going to work very well, and all the stone is going to fall off. And you can find it today. It's kind of got a ruin of wreckage down at the bottom. But he's not going to give up. He's going to try again. And so they're going to start making him another pyramid, but it's going to be at the wrong angle. So they're going to change it halfway through, and it's going to make what they think is a curved pyramid. And if you look at it, it kind of looks a little bit curved. But not to be despondent, Sneferu tries again, and he's going to have a pretty red stone pyramid made, which is famous to this day and very beautiful. Lastly, we have the big boy, the last of the ancient wonders of the ancient world, the stone pyramid of Khufu. And Khufu is going to build a really huge pyramid, which you can see to this day. It's near Cairo. And then his son, Khafre, is going to build another one just like it, only ever so slightly smaller, right next to it. And he's going to do that out of respect for his dad, and so they can have the same funerary complex. Do you remember our conversation we had about early man? And were they going to be slope-browed morons? Should we expect peoples of thousands of years in the past to be substantially less intelligent and ingenious than we are? Or should we expect them, made in the image of God, to be intelligent, at least as intelligent as we are, and capable? Well, think about these pyramids. Today, people are just plain down not sure exactly how they pulled it off with the technology they had at the time. The governmental structures, the organization, the engineering, the architecture, all of these things, the stone cutting, all of these things are just incredible. The ingenuity and intelligence being shown by these Egyptians. So these people do not seem to me to be one whit closer to a common simian ancestor. They seem to be intelligent and capable and doing some pretty great things. What's up with the funerary complex? I'm glad you asked. Let me tell you. See, at the pyramids, after you're dead, they believe that you're still to be worshipped because the pharaoh is the incarnation of a god, and that doesn't change just because he died. So they have priests working at the funerary complex, doing rituals and honoring your deadness when you are in the grave. And so the priests can stay in one place and honor both Khufu and Khafre. Well, what invariably happens is that eventually another dynasty rises up, and all the priests, they go off to honor the new dynasty, and the old dynasty, I don't know, I guess they get cold and hungry for the rest of eternity, and then grave robbers break in and steal all their stuff. The first old kingdom is going to come to an end, which is going to result in a first intermediate period where Egypt is not a unified kingdom at that point. Mohenhotep II of the 11th dynasty is going to reunify Egypt, and that's going to begin the Middle Kingdom. And the Middle Kingdom is the kingdom we believe that Abram and Sarai came down to, where Abram said, "Oh, that's my sister." And then Joseph is also going to come down to the Middle Kingdom. And we're going to talk more about that when we speak about the time of the sojourn, in between when Joseph goes down and there's roughly 70 people in the family of Israel, and then at the end of this sojourn period, hundreds of years later, there's going to be roughly 2 million of them. And how can these things possibly be? Well, you'll have to wait till next time, because that's what we're going to discuss at that point. Well, you've made it through another one of my videos. You're to be commended for your dedication to your better understanding of the Bible through history. One of the things that I very much miss from my classroom environment when doing these videos is being able to answer questions. I would welcome your questions, history related if you don't mind, in the comments below. If you'd like to learn more about these sorts of things, I also have a book out called A Helpful Handbook of Hebrew History. The links to find it on Amazon or on Wise Path Books are in the description below. God bless. For the glory of God.